Hello everybody, have you ever wondered what a step-by-step process to building a new house looks like? We're going to walk through that today and in several series after this. You're going to want to make sure to watch the end of the clip today because I'm going to show you a very insane build in this location that I'm at, and you're going to be like in awe of what they put together. Hello everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I'm LaRon, your eXp luxury agent here in Nashville, Tennessee. My phone number is right here. Please call or text. If you'd like me to buy or sell a property for you on your behalf, I'd love to represent you. So as you can see today, we are standing here in a location in front of all this heavy machinery, and we're going to start our first couple of processes in the series here, looking at like how you clear land, what's the process once you got the lot cleared, moving in then to figuring out the build footprint. We're going to go from the build footprint to the crawl space, from the crawl space to the construction of the walls, to the roof, then to all the windows. Yeah, we're going to move from the ground all the way to the roof and show how a two-story house with a crawl space is built with today's construction engineering. So let's get started. All right, so as you can see behind me, we have a lot of heavy machinery, and this is actually where the construction process starts when you take a raw piece of land and want to convert it into a subdivision with multiple houses on it, okay? You can see behind me a bulldozer, a track hoe, a backhoe, a lot of ditch digging, a lot of land clearing, a lot of smoothing of the land. One of the most important pieces of machinery here is that compacting machine right there that actually compacts the soil, because if you think about it, you don't want to set your house on topsoil, which you can see a big pile of it right there. That's why they scrape away the topsoil. You want to get down to the red clay because that's the most compact piece of the dirt, and the house is going to sit on the compacted dirt, and I'll show you that when we look at one of these lots that's been cleared and compacted. You don't want to set it on top of the topsoil that can be eroded away. So let's walk through here behind this machinery and check out what they've done so far. Come on. All right, so as you can see, we've got the beginnings of a street, okay? This used to be a wooded, heavily wooded area. You can actually see the pile of trees that's been stacked up here ready to burn. And you can also see on my other shoulder here, all the topsoil that they've scraped off, ready to be hauled off to another location. But this is the beginning of a phase in this particular subdivision, and this is how all the phases started. They had to clear it, they had to get down to compacted soil, and then they had to sort out where all the lots are gonna be. So under here is all the compacted soil to get a good base to set a street on top of. And here is all the markings for where all the infrastructure has probably already been placed under here for all of the water and the sewer that's gonna run out from the lots and be collected in here. Also for drainage, when they come in and put the street in the curbs, they had to figure out the drainage and the slope to get all that right on the street too. So this is gonna be one street that's gonna loop all the way around, and there's gonna be like 40 houses in this particular phase of the subdivision. And so as you can see, there's gonna be multiple houses. You got a little cut in on a partial cul-de-sac there that goes around, but there'll be houses all along the exterior portion to the environmental fences, and then all on the interior portions that'll be facing this street. And this is where the driveways will come into and go back out into the other area of the subdivision. So now that we've gotten to see the very first part, the very first step in clearing, what we're gonna do next is we're gonna take a look at what an actual compacted lot looks like, and then how they go about starting the process of actually putting in the build footprint for the house. So let's go over and take a look at a couple of those, and we'll get into that as well. All right, so here we are at a completed lot that's now ready for the next stage in the construction process. So as you can see, this lot is completely been scraped off. It's been compacted down. You can see the areas where the compacting machine has come over and compacted the soil. It's also very importantly been graded. As you can see, this lot slopes from your left to the right over here to this drainage area, and you have to get the sloping correct during the lot preparation phase so the water can go where it's meant to go. You don't want to be battling water when you get your houses put on these lots. So this one is prepped, ready to go. You can see the infrastructures here for the water and the sewer taps. It's also got electric in there as well too. All these lead out. This is the street that's now been paid with the construction pavement. The curbs are in, ready to be cut in for the driveways. So this lot right here is ready for the next step in the construction process. And we're gonna go over here and look at a lot to see what the next part of the construction process is to get the crawl space started. Let's go. As you can see, this lot's been prepped now for the next stage in the construction process. It's got the environmental fence in. These black fences are meant to keep the soil from eroding as we get water runoff, which right now you can see this lot's pretty muddy, so I'm not gonna actually walk down in this. It's got the washout for the cement truck right there for that bag. It's got the porta potty for the construction workers, and it's already got the first process started in getting the footer set. So these stakes represent the actual build footprint, the building envelope that the house is gonna sit on. The surveyor comes in using GPS and marks the areas in the corners of the house of where the footers need to be dug, trenched, and poured. Why this is important is because counties and cities have building codes. The building codes dictate what the house has to sit on the lot respective to your neighbor's property lines and including the street here in the front. Those are called setbacks. So according to codes, the surveyor will set the corners of the house based on the setback requirements that the city has. It could be 25 feet, it could be 50 feet, depending off the front, on the street, the rear of the house, or specifically the sides, so that each house is symmetrically situated on the lot in coordination with its neighbor's property lines. So this creates a consistent building envelope throughout the subdivision, that each house is positioned as it should be on the lot. And as you can see, if we look down these row of houses that are built, the setback off of the street and the sidewalk is consistent for all of the houses. They all are set right down evenly of each other from where the front of the street is. And that's what's going to happen here over on this phase as well. So now let's go over and look at what a finished footers look like that get started on the crawl space process. All right, so this is what it looks like now that the footers have been poured. So you can see the neon orange stakes are gone, and in its place you see concrete footers. This is actually where the house is going to sit on. And so if you notice, it doesn't encompass the concrete does not encompass the whole area of the foundation. In Texas, where I'm from, we poured concrete foundations, which meant the entire area the house was sitting on was one concrete slab. So the plumber would be the first one coming in because they'd have to rough in all their sewer and water lines in the dirt, and then they'd pour the foundation over the top of that and leave the opening for the pipe sticking up. Here, they don't do that for the most part. They use block, and we'll show what a crawl space looks like with block, and they set it on these concrete footers that actually sit on the compacted soil. So this entire two-story house, believe it or not, is going to be supported just by these footers that you see here, and they're going to put the gray block, which we're going to show that here in a bit, on top of these footers and cement it to the actual footers, and then the build process starts, and that's your envelope. So all the area that's not covered here with concrete will be the crawl space under the house, and they do some things with the houses here to prevent the moisture from coming out of the ground into the floor underneath there. So let's go look at what a crawl space looks like and kind of see what the engineering around that looks like. All right, so here we are where the footers have been finished, and now the building supply company, actually it's the block company, has made their first delivery. You can see all the stacks of block. That's not brick, those are blocks. There's a difference, and we'll talk about that here in a bit as well. And you see a pile of sand as well as a pile of concrete. That's the mortar that's gonna glue the blocks together. So what's gonna happen is the crew's gonna show up, they're gonna bring their mixer, they're gonna mix the components for the mortar, and then they're gonna start stacking the block in an order that makes sense for the build footprint to create the corners, the wall supports, as well as the pier supports as well for the middle of the joist. So what we're gonna do now is actually go to this lot right next door, and they've got the crawl space in, and they started putting in the floor joist as well, so we can kind of see what that process looks like as they continue from the materials now to an actual crawl space. Let's go check it out. Okay, so what we have here is a completed foundation, a crawl space for the house to be built on top of. Okay, a few things to be pointed out here, okay? So these blocks have been put together by the mortar seams, okay? Some codes, county or city, require that if the block goes over a certain number of rows high, they have to be what's called core filled, and there's holes in the block, and I'll see if I can find you some. And they've dumped concrete down those holes all the way down to the actual footers to create an extra level of support for this wall. So if you think about this wall, it's going to carry a lot of weight, and these blocks, regardless of the mortar is only like a ½ inch, maybe a ¼ inch thick between these joints, and they did put them in a subway type format to make sure that the joints weren't overlapping. But the weight of the house could do what's called blow the blocks out this way, because there could be so much pressure on top of this wall that they actually create more support, like every 3 to 5 feet, with additional concrete that pours all the way through these blocks down to the footer. You'll also wonder what these are. So these are the tie-ins for the brick that's going to go out on the exterior of this wall. The brick is attached by these tie-ins to the block. So when the block layers are putting this in, they put these tie-ins in here so that when the brick comes up, they'll do the same thing with the brick and tie it into that, so the brick wall does not fall away from the house. And the brick wall is going to sit on these ledges up here and then go up along the wall. So brick is just an exterior cosmetic sort of finish, same as vinyl or hardy board. It doesn't actually create any support for the house. So if you don't tie it to the house, which is the only way to do it through these ties, it'll literally fall away from the house. And there was a construction project here in town where the bricklayer, the masonry, they forgot to do the tie-ins. They had to tear the whole wall down and start over again and tie it back into the actual, wall or brick of the house. So the other thing you want to notice here is this black sort of sealant. This is the vapor sealant, because these blocks, as you can see if you get a close-up here, are really porous. So if you don't put sealant below the grade, this is where the grade of the yard is going to be, the water tends to seep in through this block and go into the crawl space. And you want to mitigate as much as possible moisture in your crawl space, because that's where the mildew on the board comes from. So they put this vapor barrier right here along the edges and all around here to keep the water from seeping through these porous pieces of block and into your crawl space. Another thing you see here is these type of weeping tubes. This is to direct the water around the house. So you'll notice that they kept the trench empty all the way around, and you'll have a tube that comes all the way around here so that the water, when it slopes, it actually looks like they're creating the slope from this way to that way. So you see a tube coming out the back and a tube out the front, which means the water, you're correct. If you pan around to there, you'll see the slope goes away from the house this way. So they're directing the water down the slope away from the house. And you'll notice right here, they've even got one coming out. Come get close to this. They even got some coming out here in the bottom, because yes, the water travels underneath the house as well as around, going down the slope to where it naturally wants to go to, which is the water cleared area at the bottom. So they're creating as much of an opportunity for the water to do that, so it doesn't back up on that side of the house. So let's go take a look now at the interior here of this crawl space, and you can see now they've already got the base plates put in, and they've already started putting in some of the floor joists, and we can see how that works. So let's take a look at the inside of this. Keep it rolling. All right, so here I am standing in the middle of the crawl space, which would be the middle of the house. As you can see all around me, the block has been put in, and they've already got this gravel laid up over the dirt below. And typically what builders will do now is when they're done building, they're going to bring in a thick plastic tarp and lay it over the top of this. And what that does is create a vapor moisture barrier between the ground and these floor joists sitting beneath the house. And the reason you want to do that is the ground is always giving off moisture, and that moisture rises and will create a mildew crawl space area. So if you're not controlling that vapor down here, you're going to have serious issues with this exposed wood. So another thing I want you to notice here is these pier supports, okay? So this is going to be the floor of the house, and they're already running the floor joist right here, as you can see. Well, if you don't put any additional supports in the crawl space, your floor is going to sag immensely. So I got a quiz for you, or a question for you. What area of the house, what room in the house do you think is the largest weighted area of the house? And if you think about it, it's a pretty simple answer. It's going to be your kitchen area. So if you think about your kitchen area, you have a floor, which is either wood or maybe some type of stone. All right, you've got possibly stone countertops. You've got a massive refrigerator. You've got an oven or a range, couple ovens maybe, microwave, plus you got a pantry full of food, plus all the dishes, pots, pans, wine glasses, beer. So the most weight per surface area in the house is actually the kitchen. So if you don't engineer your flooring right and make sure that you've got your floor joist spaced correctly and engineered and built correctly, your kitchen floor could kind of sag because of all the weight that's being put in the kitchen from all those different areas, okay? So you'll see here, they've got this braced up, adding extra support for these long runs of these beams, and they've already got the base plate in as well. And then this is gonna be like the front porch area. You'll notice here, this is block. They've got it core filled here because it's over 3 rows. So they've added extra supports here, it doesn't get blown out. But they backfill the porch areas when they block them in with gravel, because gravel is cheaper than concrete. So what they're gonna do when they lay the concrete for the garage right there as well, you notice it has rock in it. They'll smooth all this out and then lay the concrete on top of that. And the concrete will only be like that thick versus being, what is that, 4 feet, 3.5 feet of just big block of concrete. It's a waste of concrete, it's very expensive. So the underfill of this is always this gravel because it's a lot cheaper to put a load of gravel in there than anything else. So you'll see there's a vapor barrier here under these boards. These base boards are actually pressure treated and chemical treated to prevent moisture, but you want to do everything you can to keep moisture out of here. You've seen that they've done that on these pillars as well too. That's why they got the sheet of plastic sitting here, because moisture is always an issue. So you want to make sure you're controlling it. And then you'll see around the exterior there's actually blocks with holes in there. So that's actually going to ventilate the crawl space. And again, you'll see them on this wall as well. They've got blocks with holes in them because it's going to ventilate the crawl space. That is going to be your crawl space entrance. That's why there's that hole there. And you can see that teal type of pipe there at the bottom. That again is allowing moisture to escape as it goes down the hill out that direction of the house. So you're always managing moisture and water runoff when you're building, especially in these subdivisions, because when you put all these houses in, you put all these streets in, it affects the permeation ability of the water to get into the soil. So it has to go somewhere, so it creates a massive amount of runoff. So these subdivisions are always creating engineered areas to collect the water. And this particular area is back over here, so they created a pond to collect all the runoff that's coming down these streets and down these slopes of these yards, because the water now has less areas to be absorbed, so it's got to run off. And plus, once the soil gets saturated with water, it's not going to take anymore, it's got to go somewhere. So that's where you get these big erosion issues coming up here. So you've always got to engineer and build to that and let the water do what the water is going to do. And so I just wanted to show you this. Now we're going to go take a look at a really insane crawl space, and you're going to be amazed at what they can engineer and build these blocks to do. Now let's go take a look at this insane crawl space, and you're going to be really amazed at what they can do and how they can build these crawl spaces. So here we are, and yes, we are inside of a crawl space in a house in one of these subdivisions, okay? This is an insane crawl space, okay? You can see me against the wall here. I'm 6'3". You can see the height of this wall. They put the block here along the bottom. You can see I'm also standing on the vapor barrier that we discussed earlier. Make sure you get the vapor barrier in there. You can see here the weeping holes, the holes to allow the airflow to come in here. But this is a massive crawl space. So what they did here is they have the plot coming down the hill. So remember, there's water running underneath this plastic to the back side of the house. The front of the house is on the high side of the hill. The back side is on the low side. And then you can see they stop the block here, and then they frame these interior walls for the block all the way up. And then right above me, as you can see, is the floor joist. It's a good 2-story crawl space in here, and it's got a massive amount of usable space in my opinion. You can see here, they actually use block for these pier and beam to support the floor joist, and they got one massive floor joist that runs here and then another one there to support the actual middle of the house. So if you didn't have the load from the house coming down through here down to the ground, you'd have a massive collapse of your house. Now, me personally, I would actually make this a usable space in here. They've got power outlets. They just have the power hooked up. The front side of the house has an office in it. I'd put a trap door in the floor of that office, build me a staircase down in here, and then I would actually build some type of floor or platform off of this wall right here, level out to here, and then I'd actually use this space from the inside of my house to actually make it functional and usable. It's actually really nice and cool in here right now. I would not recommend, as some people would think they do, cut some sort of access to the backyard through this wall. I mean, once you start messing with the support structure up here, cutting and opening, you'd have to run a header and then more support here down to this foundation wall, put some kind of door in here. And during the construction process of doing that, if you don't support everything above the hole you cut in here, it'll cave down and crack your entire house, and that would not be cool. So I'm not a big fan of messing with walls like this when you want to start cutting into them and decreasing the actual viability of the wall. Now, if you'll notice here, this is actually the front side, the high side, and they actually use block here. So you could see the many rows of block to support the high side, and these are going to be core filled for the large part with concrete down through the holes of the block and create a space around here. So this is, you can look above, you can see all of the the infrastructure running here. So you got your cold air ducts, you've got your piping, you've got your hot water and cold water coming from the water heater in the garage. You've got your ventilation coming out of here, including this. So this is actually venting. It actually could be taking water down from the house, drainage pipe out to one of the pumps that sends it up to the street. But this is a massive crawl space. You can kind of get an idea of what crawl spaces could end up looking like once you get on a very steep lot, and you have to obviously make the house level. It gives you an idea of some of the engineering that goes into creating a level house, and actually the additional cost, because there's a lot more cost in this house due to the additional framing requirements to build up the house to level before you even start with the house. So above that floor is 2 stories of house. So we're literally almost sitting on like a 3.5 story house when you take in all the space here in the crawl space. Pretty insane, right? So thank you for tuning in. This is the first in a series of new construction, building from the ground to the roof. If you like it, please subscribe or comment. If you need any additional information on houses in the Nashville area, that includes Franklin, Brentwood, and Fairview, my number is right here. Please reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. Again, I'm Jack LaRon, your Nashville area real estate agent, and I look forward to seeing you on the next series of Building New Construction. Thank you.